I won't charge you extra for this one. I sent you a receipt for the 2 hours from the other weekend, the 2 hours that you hadn't paid for.
Yes.
But I won't charge you for this one.
Okay.
It's already done in the other part anyway. And I did upload part 3 this morning. I don't know if you saw it, but
Yeah, I saw that you uploaded.
all of your videos are uploaded. That took so long last night. Oh my god.
Sorry, I just had to switch.
No, it's fine. I don't know. I don't know what was happening, but it took for ages to load last night. And I'm just like, I can't load this now. I'll load it in the morning because I couldn't.
Yeah. I think I was thinking about it because you're doing a video on top of a video. Maybe it had to do with that.
Possibly, but I think also I was actually trying to use my computer at the time and use some of the other applications, and I'm sure that didn't help either. So, okay, so this is a picture. I can also take a picture of the math if you need it, but this is a picture of the circles. So this first circle in red is the circle that he gave you, okay?
Okay.
He only gave you the top half. I did the whole circle, okay?
Okay.
And you can see that it goes from 0, 0 to 5, 0, right?
Mhm.
So the center is at 2.5 and 0, right? And the radius is 2.5 units because the diameter is 5 units, right?
So what is you were saying the importance of the radius and the importance of the center is to use for the equation for HK?
Well, okay. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was just wondering, so where does the radius play a role in that equation?
Well, because the radius, okay, so let me stop sharing this and start sharing something else, which is, so can you see my Google Doc up there?
Yes.
Okay, so the equation for, there it is, I was waiting for my keyboard to kick in. X. Okay, it's being a little bit slow right now. X minus h. X minus h squared. This is your circle equation. X minus h squared.
Okay.
Plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Okay?
Oh, okay, I see.
And so the center is at HK.
HK.
The center is at HK. And the radius is R. Okay? So when you're dealing with your equation y equals, let's do insert symbol, where's that? Special character, that's what it is. Okay, now I need square root.
You can probably just put SQ and then I'll know what you mean. Or
Yeah, but I need to find, yeah, it's there somewhere. Square, oh.
Is it
But I just typed in square, not square bracket. Square root. There it is.
Yeah.
I just wanna,
Oh, okay.
so this is your function that he gave you.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5x
minus
x squared.
x.
So then, when you go and you square both sides of this, you get a circle, okay? Like from this morning. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. Do you?
Yeah, I did see.
And are you okay with how I got to that, or do you need me to go over that part?
No, I understand. Yeah, I
So-
understand. I just
so
didn't know that circle equation, the first one you wrote. I didn't know that.
This was okay. So remember that you get the whole circle. So the equation of the original circle was the original circle that he gave you has an equation that's x minus 5/2 squared plus y minus 0 squared.
Oh, yeah, for that part, did you get the 0 because there was nothing?
Because it's on the x-axis.
Okay.
And remember that the equation of the x-axis is y equals 0. I'll go back to the Desmos picture in a second, and you can see that equals 25/4. So this was the original circle that he gave you.
Yes.
Okay. But he only gave you the top half.
The top half. Yeah.
That's why it looked the way it did, which is this is the top half of the original circle. Okay?
Okay.
Now, so are you okay with that part?
Yes.
Now, let me go back and share the Desmos thing again. Let me see, where is it? I need to open it before I can share it. So, okay, let's see. So there's there. So he gave you the top half of this circle. Now you ask me, why is it 0? Because this goes from 0 to 5, right? On the x-axis, the red circle goes from 0 to 5 on the x-axis, yes?
Yes.
So the x-coordinate is going to be 0 plus 5 divided by 2, 2.5, right? And essentially, since this is, I didn't label it on this graph, but since this is a circle, this is going to be 5 units. So the center here, this point at the top is going to be 2.5, 2.5. And this point down below is going to be 2.5 and negative 2.5. And so since you're on the x-axis, your y coordinate is 0. The green point in the picture, do you see it?
Okay. Yeah.
That's why.
Okay.
Okay, now I made these turned to decimals, but I made them fractions. So that was the original circle. Okay, now the graph in green over here is the graph that he gave you. Okay, so we're looking at the bottom half of a circle. Okay, it's the bottom half of this circle, but this circle's been moved. Okay, and so the center goes from this green point at 2.5 and 0 to the middle of these two endpoints that he gave you. You see it? He gave you these two endpoints, -3, -1, and -8, -1. I didn't make a mistake on the x. I made a mistake on the, and I'll explain what I did with the y that messed it up. So the x coordinate of the center is going to be the midpoint of the two. So -8, -3, you add that together, you get -11. -11 divided by 2, -11 halves. Okay, so h is going to be -11 halves, which means you're going to get a plus 11 halves. Now, if you look at the picture, which is why I wanted to draw this out.
So what did you just do? You added those two terms
I
together.
added okay, so I know that -8, -1, and -3, -1 are endpoints on the circle, correct?
Right.
They're endpoints of the bottom half, but they're still on the circle, correct?
Oh,
So,
yes. So you're finding the middle.
so I need, right, so I need the x coordinate of the center. So
Okay.
all I did was find the midpoint of that,
I see.
okay? Now, so that was -11 halves, and that's where I got
Got negative.
this from. When I did, now I'll explain where the -7, the 3 halves and the 7 halves came from in a second, because originally I had graphed the whole circle and then I removed it. But I left the point up here
Oh,
so
okay.
you could see it,
Mhm.
because this circle goes all the way around, yes?
Yes.
Now the radius is still the same. So the radius is still 5 halves, or 2.5 units, okay? So remember, this time I'm looking at the y coordinate, okay? So -5.5 is that -11 halves. That's the middle of this point right here, the x coordinate. The y coordinate is going to be, this is where I made the error, okay? So from -1, okay, and I have to go 2.5, I'm sorry, yeah, 2.5 units down below that, and that's where I get -3.5, which is what they had given you. They gave you that on the picture, right? They just didn't label it.
Okay.
Remember? Because you had the -1 and it went down to -3.5.
Mhm.
So this is the other coordinate of that. Now, I need to know what the center is on the y-axis, right? Parallel to the y-axis. So now, if I'm 2.5 units in a diameter, 2.5 units radius, then I'm 5 units in the diameter, which means this other point at the top is 2.5 units. And by the way, each of these units on the x-axis, each box is half a unit. So 2 boxes is 1 unit. So I went 5 boxes up to get to a 2.5 unit radius. Now, the center of those 2 points happens to be, this is 3 halves, 1.5, and this is a -3 halves. So I did that math correctly. -1 plus -3. So y is going to be -1, right? So now here's where I made the error. When I went and did my my circle down here, so it was x plus 11 halves squared. So when I did the circle, I only did the bottom half for you on this page. But the actual circle itself, let me go back to my Google Doc so that I can put it on there. Because this is where I made the error with the math. So in the new circle that he gave you, the new circle had a center, well, it had a radius of 5 halves still, okay? And it has a center at, it comes up to 11 halves, so negative 11 halves,
And -1.
and negative 11 halves, and no, because it's -1, it goes from -1 to -3.5, right? So let me do that calculation. So the x-coordinate, x of the midpoint is going to be negative, it went from -3 plus -8 divided by 2, right? So that was equal to -11/2, which was -5.5, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you look back at the decimals, okay, -1 is not the midpoint because I need to stop sharing this one and share the Desmos screen, but I need to actually get the Desmos screen first. So let me grab that. Okay, so if I go back up here, let me share it. When -1 is not the center, you see? It's on a line with the center, but it's not the y coordinate of the center because this piece is my circle. So when it's the center of that, so this goes from, if I'm looking at half of the circle, this part is from, I did it down here, right here. This is your radius minus this, and the 1 comes from it's not 9/4. That's where I made my error this morning. So this curve is your, I don't know if I can, I don't know if it will paste. Let me see if it will paste it. Probably not, but I can always try. Let me see if it'll paste it into the Google Doc. If not, then I'm gonna have a minute here. No, see, it didn't copy it correctly. So I'll do it right now for you so you can see how I did it. This is -1. This becomes x, right, minus, and then right, -11/2. So that you see where the square comes in. And then you,
I don't see anything.
oh, you're, okay. I must not be sharing that part of the screen. Hold on. I must have forgotten to switch it. Can you see the Google Doc?
Yeah.
Now? Okay, so that's your 11 halves. Now the 1 comes from the y, so this is same thing. This is y plus, oops. So this is y plus 1, okay? It's on the same line as 1, but it's it's negative 11 halves and negative 1.
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
that's what I was thinking. That's the midpoint, right? That's your
Yeah,
HK.
the
Okay.
midpoint of the, So
And then
then I square this.
and
So
then
I square it,
okay.
and then I still get 25 over 4, right?
Yeah.
So then when I saw this he gave you was the bottom half of the circle, okay?
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna manipulate this and I'm gonna solve it for y. So I'm gonna take this term and now let's see if you can actually, so this is y minus 1 squared is gonna equal, this is gonna be 25 over 4 minus this term, minus this x squared
Okay.
term over here, right? So
Yeah.
are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Now this part, now if I take the square root of it,
Hmm.
then the squares on either side are gonna go away, and I'm gonna get y plus 1 is equal to, and I'm gonna have plus or minus, but I'm gonna have plus or minus, and then I'm gonna have the square root again.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have the square root. So let me come up here and cheat a little bit and copy that symbol. Uh, so there's my square root symbol. And underneath it, I'm gonna have this whole thing, okay? So I'm gonna go to that. Okay, are you with me there?
Yes.
So now what I have to do, and this is where I made the error this morning, because I made it 9/4. I subtracted it from the inside instead of from the outside of the whole term. I
Uh,
subtracted it from the center instead of from the whole piece.
okay.
So, so now to solve for y, I want the bottom half of the circle, right? So I'm going to say y equals, and I'm going to use the negative this time, and I'm going to just use the negative of the square root. So it's the negative of this whole thing here.
And that's because it's the bottom half of the circle.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to change this now because this is a double negative. So I'm going to make it a plus just so that it's a little easier to read it. Okay. Oh, I'm hitting the control key and not the, hold on. Let's see. Shift plus sign. Okay. So now we're there, right? And now what I have to do is I have to move the 1 over, but the 1 is not under the radical. And that's the
Right.
mistake I made this morning.
Okay.
Because I put it in with the y minus 5/4, and I got 9/4 when I added. And it should be after the whole term.
And as a side note, I was just wondering, you know how the square is on that x plus 11 halves?
Right.
That doesn't get reduced when it's under a square root.
Well, it's that whole term squared. So if it's square rooted, you're just going to leave it under. You can't, if you have this, if you have something like the square root, I'll bring it up in a second. um, oops. If you have, let me scroll up. If you have the square root of 25 plus 16, okay? If I'm adding under the radical, this is not 5 plus 4,
Okay.
okay? Because you have to add under here. This would be
First. Yeah.
25 plus 41, so
Yeah.
this 25 plus 16, so this would be the square root,
41.
the square root of 41.
Right.
I can't, so when I move this x plus 11 halves over and I take the square root of it, it doesn't go away. It doesn't become 5 halves minus 11 halves
Okay.
or plus 11 halves. It doesn't do that.
Because of that minus sign in between the two.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
If I were multiplying, it would, but it
Okay.
doesn't because and so this equation should work. The one right here
Okay.
should work, which you might actually be able to easier read from,
I know. I attempted to put it in, but I think it blocked me on that answer. So I think I attempted that answer too many times. So
okay.
I unfortunately can't check it, but I just wanted to see,
But that was my error.
yeah.
That was an arithmetic mistake. It wasn't a
Uh-huh.
mistake in the explanation. It was an arithmetic mistake I made on the actual manipulation. But do you see now what?
Yeah. Yeah, I see it now. I think the way our teacher kind of like wants us to do it is based on how many
Well, you could
transformation like
you could still do it like that.
yeah.
Because if you look at, okay, so if you do it the other way, then what you're gonna have is let's go back to the Google Doc for a minute, okay? So let me close this and let's go back to here. Okay, so if you don't do that, okay, you still need the original circle, okay, or the original half circle. So the original was,
I can't see your screen.
yeah, I know, I have to
Oh, okay.
bring up I'll get it for you in a second.
No problem.
But it's like, we can't see your screen, Professor. Can you share, please?
Yeah.
So there's the original. Okay, let me make sure that I'm sharing it because I'm not right now. There it is. How about now?
Yes.
Can you see it? Okay, so this was the original equation that you had, right? And so when you're doing it, it's really important to know what you did. So, and that's why the picture is helpful. Because if you know what transformations you did, then you can do it on the graph, right? So we know that you moved the center 8 units. Now, do you understand why it's 8 units?
Yes.
8 units left, and you moved it 1 unit down because it went from, the center went from did I show you somewhere? Yeah, the center went from 2.5 and 0 to negative 11 halves and negative 1. So it moved 8 units to the left and 1 unit down. Okay?
Okay.
8 units left and 1 unit down. Now, okay, you only want the bottom half. So essentially what you're doing with the circle that you have is you're reflecting it about the x-axis. Okay?
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
All right, so now that means that your new equation, and we know what your new equation is supposed to be. Your new equation is supposed to be this, here. Okay? From this that you got. That's why I said the math is going to be messier to do it this way, but it can be done. So if we want to reflect it about the x-axis, we're going to make the expression the opposite of itself. So we get the opposite, right? So I put the negative in front. I still have the square root. I still need my radius, okay? So I need to know what my radius is, okay? That's not gonna change. My radius is not gonna change, okay? So I'm gonna have something in here. I'll come back to it in a second. So I have, whoops. So I have something in here. Let me just use spaces or something. Some sort of something or other here as a placeholder. There we go. So I have that. And then I'm gonna have, and I know that I moved it 1 unit down, so I'm gonna have a -1 out here, okay? So I took care of my reflection, and I took care of my -1. Now I need to deal with this thing in the center here, because that's where my, so if that's true, and I moved it 1 unit down, I have to move this, my x is now not x. My x is now, everywhere I see x, I have to put, I'm gonna use a square bracket, where is it? So everywhere I see x, I have to now put x plus 8 because I moved it 8 units to the left. Okay?
Okay.
So this tells me I moved it 5 units. Now this is going to be minus, and then I'm going to have x plus 8. Okay? Except that that part is going to be squared because this, not the 5x part, but this part here is going to be squared. So I'm going to end up having to manipulate that. Why don't I square the first part? Because it wasn't squared here. You see that? So my root is everything. Let me close the bracket. My root is everything in the brackets.
Okay.
Okay? So now I have to do a bunch of manipulation to get my
I see.
circle back. Okay? Now I could, it's going to look different than what I wrote here because it's not going to have any fractions in there, but you're going to have y equals, and you're going to have a negative, and you're going to have a square root and a bracket. So you're going to have that, and you're going to have 5x plus 40 minus, now remember when I do this part, I have to FOIL, right?
Right.
So I get x squared
16x.
plus 16x plus 64, right? So then, but then, whoops, 64, but then I have to simplify that underneath there, and I have my minus 1 hanging out. So then I get y equals then I have the negative square root negative square root, and I'm going to end up with a lot of negative terms. So negative x, I'm going to rewrite it in descending order here. Let me use a bracket again. So this is going to be negative x squared. And then I have 16x and I have a 5x. It's going to be 21, right? So I have 21x.
But doesn't the negative get distributed to the 16?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. You're correct, I'm wrong. So negative 16x, and that's going to be 5, so negative 9x. Negative 9x, and then I have a negative 64, and a positive 40 is a negative 24. Negative 24. And then I have that term. So that is going to be another, and that's going to be another one. Now, how does that relate to what I gave you in the other one? Well, if I were to square the other one and eliminate the fractions, which I can do that math on another page if you need me to.
No, that's okay.
I don't want to type it all in, but if I have y equals the opposite of the root of 25 over 4 minus x plus 11 halves squared minus 1, then if I want to simplify under the radical, I get 25 over 4 minus x squared. This is going to be 11 halves, so it's going to be 22 halves. So it's going to be minus 11x plus 121 over 4. And then I could, if I multiply everything by 4 and manipulate it, I could do the 25.
Yeah, I think I like your way better.
Well, that's why I did it like that.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I mean, it'll still come out because
Yeah.
it's going to come out as a different polynomial, but I just found it to be easier to, you can clean up if they didn't want like fractional coefficients or whatever, then you can clean that up.
Yeah.
To some extent. But there is a way to kind of not change it, but equivalize it so that it's, but I figured that if I started moving stuff over and sticking stuff in there, that it would be harder mathematically for you to figure it out.
Yeah.
And this is a case where if I don't know how, I mean, I don't think that he cares so much about whichever way you get the answer.
Yeah,
Because both ways use transformations, they just use them differently.
right.
I used transformations to get it, but I knew it was a circle, so I just asked myself, okay, well, where is it?
Yeah, the center.
And
Yeah.
then I just, um, I mean, you can play with this and see that it would come. I mean, play with the other one that I gave you, because you've got here you're going to have a 4, here you're going to have a 4, right? So you can manipulate that and see what you got. But that's why I wanted you to have the Desmos, and I'm going to send you the Desmos with the notes so you can actually see it. But I did use the transformations when I was using
Right.
the Desmos screen. I used it.
Yeah.
I just didn't use it in the way that you were used to.
Hmm.
But I think it's more direct, and that was my whole reason for doing
Yeah.
it like that. How are you doing with the rest of the homework?
Good so far. It's just the what is that? The composition of functions.
Yeah, did you see what you did on that composition, the second one that you
I
sent me?
yeah, I haven't. I did look at it. Yeah, and I had it where it was like I was actually trying to divide it, so it
I
became a
see.
huge mess. That's
I
why.
was like, why did she? I was looking at it like, how did she get that answer?
Yeah,
No, you just write it over yeah, it doesn't ask you to simplify.
yeah, I was confused about that, but it was a lot easier than I was thinking.
Yeah, I was like, it took me a minute to figure out. I'm like, she just has X, she just has G. All you
Yeah,
have to do is sometimes when you overthink it, Sam, bad things happen, right?
I know. Because it seems like we simplify all the other ones, but I think it's because in pre-cal we actually, if I remember correctly, we actually had to find what x equaled to. So that's
Well,
why.
that's okay, but that's when you're looking for roots.
Okay.
You do that. You do that. But you do that when you're looking for roots of the equation, not when you're doing compositions.
Okay. Okay.
If it asks you to find the roots of the polynomial, then you do that.
Okay. So yeah, I guess. Yeah, I took that one too far, but
Well,
I know.
that's okay. I made an arithmetic error, so we're even now. But I
Yeah.
was like, what is she? I was looking at it like, she knows how to do this. What is she doing? I was cracking my head like, I know she knows how to do it.
Yeah, because I don't know. I just took that one.
Yeah,
But
no, it happens.
yeah.
So are you in like 1-4 now?
I'm still at 1-3. I think I have two more questions left of 1-3, and then I'll be in 1-4. So.
And then, so he's collecting up to 1-5 tomorrow?
Oh no, I'm doing it really early. It's not due till June 8th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he collects
Just the
them.
just the quiz is due tomorrow at 1
Yes,
or something.
yeah. So
How was the quiz? The quiz was okay?
yeah, the quiz was really easy. It was just that one that we talked about where
Yeah,
it's
the
the
whole
transformation.
transformation. But go back and look at that little part of the lecture where he does it with the root
Yeah,
function, and you'll see it.
yeah, that
Because
helped a lot.
he does a really good job of explaining that part.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to go back when I get a chance to look at
Yeah,
those.
no worries.
Yeah, and it definitely cutting the X in half. I was like, "What? Can you do that?" And then when you told
Well,
me you could do,
it's not that we're cutting it in half. It's just that because it's increasing faster,
yeah,
And that, to me, that makes more sense to say.
Yeah.
It's steeper, so it's increasing faster. So you only have to go twice as far to get there. You're
Yep.
running twice as fast,
Right.
so you catch up with them after half as long, kind of,
Yeah.
you know? That's essentially what happens with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess it was throwing me off because I was thinking about how the two would get divided by the y side.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
That's why.
understand you, because it used to throw me off the same way until I started looking at it like it's increased, like, because the absolute value of 2x, remember it's a v,
Hmm.
and that line has a higher slope now, so it's increasing faster. So you have to cut the x in half to get to the same y point.
Mm. Yeah.
If you would normally get to some point on the y-axis after 4 units, if your slope is 1, now your slope is 2, so you get there in half the time, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So did you want to meet tomorrow morning again, or are you okay right now?
Um, yeah, I think because tomorrow I'm gonna try to do sections 1.4 homework.
Okay.
So, and then I'll see how far I get.
Okay. Yeah, just text me and let me know. My high school student is starting her geometry class tomorrow. And
Oh,
she's
okay.
not sure what time they meet, but they have their orientation. So I told her to call me and tell me, because I want to do a follow up with her,
Hmm.
because it's her first day of class.
Yeah.
So I want to do a follow up with her to see how that's going. And then
I had to take geometry like twice in high school. It's
I
not
hear
bad.
you. Yeah, I hear you. Geometry wasn't my strongest suit either. I made it, but I had a really good geometry teacher. That's why.
Oh.
For a while, I was in his, like, I would go to his classroom every day at lunch
Oh, wow.
and, like, be like, how do I do? And after he showed me a few things, I was like, okay, now I know what I'm doing, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, you let me know. I'm gonna send you the notes and the Desmos picture.
Okay.
And then I'll upload, because I don't think, no, I don't have time to upload the video right now, but I'll upload it early tomorrow morning,
Okay.
and then you'll be able to go back through it if you want. If you want to do like a similar question or something from the other homework, or do a practice one.
Yeah, because it says I think you can do similar questions, so I can probably practice another similar
Yeah, and so
stuff.
it'll work out the same.
Yeah.
Find the center of the one they give. I mean, maybe they'll start you with one below this time, but find the center of it
Hmm.
and figure out where the center was moved to.
Yeah.
And I'll do a better job of checking my math next time. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course, anytime. Keep up the good work. We got week 2 of calculus, so
I know.
limits are coming.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Don't be scared. We'll be friends. I'll what I'll start doing, if you keep needing this much help, then I'll start charging you on a weekly basis, and I'll just charge you a flat amount every week,
Okay.
if that's easier for you. If you end up needing as much help as you needed this week.
Okay, because I was like, maybe I should go to the Success Center. I was thinking about it, but I mean,
No, I mean, either way. I mean, they
yeah,
do have tutoring, so if you want to try that, you certainly can.
yeah,
I don't have, you know me, I'm like, if you want to have 5 tutors, or I had one student one semester that had 5 tutors. He was a veteran, and so he had a tutor from the Veteran Center. He had a tutor that he hired. I was his embedded tutor in class, and then he had tutors at the Success Center. So, I mean, whatever it takes to succeed. So,
Yeah.
you know, but he told me very early on, he's like, I already have. I said, that's fine. Have as many tutors as you know what I mean? Because, and he was a single dad with a son, so
Wow.
he was doing all sorts of, and I mean, this guy was a combat vet. He actually spent like almost a year incapacitated
Oh my God.
because he got involved in an explosion and he had to rehabilitate after that. So I mean, this guy, he'd been around the block, you know, and he wasn't that old. I would say he was in his mid 30s, you know, but or early 40s when I met him. But
Good for
yeah,
him.
when a guy like that comes and says, I'm like, dude, whatever you have to do, go do that.
Yeah.
Like, please go do that. And I'm not going to feel bad for 1 minute. But he was on it. Like every class activity, he would be on my shoulder all the time. He's like, I think it's this. I think it's that. I think the answer is that. I'm like, okay, well, remember this part. He was really cool. I liked him a lot. But sometimes we had to kind of rein him in a bit. Because he liked to participate, and that class, they liked to participate, but sometimes we had to rein him in before he just like, in his enthusiasm, kind of ran everybody over and just like, okay, Kyle, we know you have the answer or what you think is the answer, but sit on for 2 minutes and we'll come back to you, you know. But that class actually was a lot of fun. That class was the first time I ever did an embedded tutoring for Daniela Cortez, and it was Math 80 in 6 weeks.
Oh,
And
wow.
you know that class, I was really surprised. That class had a 90, like something crazy, like a 97% pass rate in that class.
Wow.
I mean, they stayed from day one and they were engaged from day one. And I think we had like 3 people drop, and 1 person dropped because they accidentally enrolled in the wrong class.
Oh my God.
So, because it was one of those things where it was split, you know, and
Oh.
she needed the class to start the next session.
Yeah.
And she was like, but I thought it started on, and we're like, no, that's the class so she was actually in the wrong class. So we're like, come back in 6 weeks and we can help you. You know? And but at least she figured it out really quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, that class was incredible. That I was like, wow. But they were coming to see me. Like, they were coming to see me a lot.
Yeah.
And it was beginners. It was a beautiful experience. It was just like, but I worked hard in that class. And so then I had another class with her, and practically nobody came to see me, and they still did okay, but practically nobody came to see me. So the school paid me that semester to do a lot of floor hours because nobody ever showed up. So
Yeah.
it just depends.
I always wonder how people get by without tutors, because you go onto Chegg and it's like so confusing sometimes, the way that they set up the problem.
It depends on how they've laid it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do that too. Sometimes Chegg is really good, and sometimes I'm like, I have to go into 2 or 3
Yeah, different.
2 or 3, and I'm looking at it as a tutor because I know what they did, but I'm like, if I explain it to somebody this way, they're never going to understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, you never would. Like, you would have to know everything about it to,
Yeah.
you know, which is not their fault. But I mean, if you're trying to explain it to somebody, it has to be Yeah, so no, Chegg is helpful.
Yeah.
Um, I always recommend it to my tutor friends too, because sometimes when you're a tutor, you have a moment where you're like, okay, I know what this problem is about, but how exactly do I start again? And you do get like, so sometimes when you look at Chegg, you can kind of go, oh yeah, I remember, and then you're like off and running again, but you have a moment where you freeze, and or you want to check your answer and make sure that it's the same as somebody else's. Like I've had that issue before too.
Yeah.
So it's helpful for that, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
Just sometimes,
mm,
especially with chemistry, there's like teachers who use this thing called millimole. And to this day, I'm just like, I don't even want to know what that means because I don't know when it comes to shortcuts and stuff. I'm just like, what are you doing?
mhm. Well, no, you can usually get it, but you usually need to see the whole process
Yeah,
laid
I
out for
do. Yeah, I'm definitely a hands-on learner, so I'm not one to like skip over steps and just like get it like that. I don't know, it's just me.
Yeah. No, but you can get it, and the shortcuts are useful.
Yeah, I was thinking that for, well, at least I've heard that for calculus, you need to like know all the shortcuts so that you can get your answers faster that way.
Well, it depends on which part you're in and what you're referring to as shortcuts,
Mhm.
because there are some, but you always learn the long before you learn shortcuts.
Yeah, like
So, I mean, but there are some that you need. That's true.
the
That's,
the one I was thinking of is for example, when you have like a polynomial um in a parentheses all squared,
uh-huh.
and then knowing like that you have to multiply each term.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. I was
That is very helpful because you do that a lot.
okay.
So that is very helpful. Square the first term is how it works. So you square the first term. To get the middle term, you multiply the first and the second term. So if you're trying to square x plus 8, quantity squared, right?
Mhm.
Square the x, you get x squared. Take the two terms, multiply them together. So x times 8 is 8x. And double that. That's 16x. To get the last term, square the second term. That is very helpful, and you're right about that, because you end up doing that a lot. You'll see that in chapter 2. Um, and you can still do it the other way, but it's helpful if you know that one for
Mhm.
sure.
Were you, the one you just explained, was that the one for like two terms in the parentheses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the perfect square trinomial,
Hmm.
which, like, we just did that one for the circle.
Yeah,
So that is very helpful.
because there's another one where it's cubed, right?
The sum of cubes, the difference of cubes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to like maybe one of the sessions will go
Yeah,
through.
yeah. I think I'll have to look. I have some notes on it somewhere, but I need a minute to look for that because
Okay.
I think that might have been in some of the notes that I still have, but I took off my desktop yesterday because I dutifully made space on my computer
I know
yesterday.
my
Remember I was telling you?
yeah, about this week. My brother told me about this website called Wolfram Alpha.
Oh yeah, that's really helpful too.
Yeah, because he actually graduated from Cal State Long Beach
Nice.
as a mechanical engineer degree.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so whenever he has time, I'll like ask him a quick question like about
Yeah,
math, and
I
then
hear you.
yeah,
Yeah.
he told me that this website helped him a lot, and
Yeah, Wolfram is good, and there's some other ones. So um if you're interested, I can help you with that too. But there's I have some stuff on the notes. I just like I said, I just have to look at it
yeah,
because it's been a minute since, and I did take off some stuff yesterday. So I mean I have it still, but I don't have it on my desk on my drive right now.
hmm,
But I'm sure I have it tonight. But yeah, if you want to try another similar question tomorrow, like I said, you can. We
okay,
can talk you through it or whatever. I'm sending it right now. I just need to. I had like 16 sessions
oh, that's great.
this I'm I started I started tracking like all the private sessions because I don't have a way to um, let people know how many hours they have otherwise or whatever. So I
Hmm.
started tracking it in May, and that's what um, the receipts are for.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I had like 16 sessions. So
That's great.
yeah, in like since the first, so that was pretty good considering that I was working for the school at the time.
Yeah,
Um, Now June's going to be interesting because technically I don't go back till the 23rd, but I have like three people that I'm going to be working with. And I think Jane and Christy are going to start their chemistry class.
yeah, they told me I think it's in June. Um, it's like around the same time this class ends, I think. So
Also, see,
yeah, so I
Long
think
Beach
they said they wanted to start a little, or Jane texted saying, because we started our own little group text.
Discord. Uh-huh, good. Good for
Yes.
you guys.
So that way, if they
Yeah,
need,
Jane will be on it.
yeah, because she wants
Trust
to start
me.
early. She's like, I have to figure out my schedule with anatomy, but I want to start early. I was like, okay, just let me
Yeah,
know.
no, Jane will be on it. If she gets a little too, and she's a sweetheart, but if she gets a little too intense for you, just let me know and I can kind of
Okay.
step in because sometimes you have to kind of talk her down from the rafter, like come down and not just come down. It's okay.
Yeah.
But she's a sweetheart and she's super smart, but she's really into like she brings high achiever to a whole other level. She's she's a smart one though, and she and Christy study really well together. Christy's not quite as um, high octane as that,
Hmm.
but she is prone to a bit of anxiety. But it manifests differently in
Yeah.
her than in Jane. Jane is all bluster and shortness and but Christy's more like, oh my God, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. Relax. So it's I think you guys will do well together. And
Yeah.
I'll peek in once in a while, see if I can learn any chemistry in there. I'll keep watching the videos.
Yeah, I think it will be helpful for me to go back and learn as well so that I can pick up
And I
where,
sent them some videos to kind of help them prep that seem pretty explanatory. They talk about like the basics, vocabulary. This is, you know, this
Yeah.
is carbon. This is phosphorus. This is, memorize the basic 30 elements, and this is the groups that you need to know, and so it's really
Yeah.
explanatory. The only thing is I don't have access to the materials, so I would just need to get a chemistry book, like a basic chemistry book, and read, because I did learn some of that. That's one thing that our high school chemistry teacher emphasized was the periodic table.
Mhm.
And we really, she really broke it down and taught it to us. And I think she required that me memorize like 40 elements. But this was when the periodic table only had like 137, I think. And she gave extra credit if you could memorize like more. You know what I mean? Like if you could, and if you knew the whole table at the end, I think she gave you like 25 extra points or something if you knew like all 100 and something elements. So, I mean, she taught it to us, the groups, the elements, the electrons, all the shells, and how you make it. And yeah, she taught us a lot for a high school chemistry course.
I know what's interesting is the in the Chem 110 class that they're in,
Uh-huh.
they don't touch base so much about um I mean, they do talk about the elements a little bit, but you don't learn so much about like all the elements like in that.
Well, we talked about the elements, but it was more like so you would know, like P is phosphorus, not potassium.
Oh, okay.
K is potassium. Sodium is Na, not S, because S is sulfur, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, it's just, so I
Yeah.
think it will help them to
Yeah,
try.
that'll probably be like more for I think the Chem 100 class because when you they teach like more like basic stuff in the 100 uh,
Okay.
and then 110 is like skipping over all that and it's going straight into like more dimensional analysis like um setting up like the mole to mole ratio
Okay.
like that kind of so
Okay.
it does use a lot of math
Uh-huh.
in that sense where you're just like trying to cancel things out to get a solution. So
Okay.
they'll
Well,
be
they do that in 110 also, right?
yeah, 110. I think that's what they're taking. One
But they do that in 100 too, don't they?
yeah,
Dimensional analysis?
yeah, they did that in 100 as well. I think they introduced the idea in 100 and then 110 they're gonna be dealing with like more so like word problems and then
Okay,
breaking
maybe
that
I need to like watch that video and then watch the next set after that.
yeah, because it will be a little bit more intense. Like it will be more like a word problem and then breaking down like what they gave you and then
Mhm.
finding the solution to that.
Well, I'll be, as long as I have the conversion factors, I should be able to figure it out.
Yeah, it's not hard. I got an A, but I mean I did work really hard for it. And then I also sent them a list because I don't have my notes from that class, unfortunately. I got really excited about getting an A and I threw it away in the trash.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
it
should
was
have
one of
never done
those
that.
moments. So,
If
but
you major in it, you never throw it out.
I know. I was like, just I'm gonna know this stuff anyways. So yeah, I I didn't think I would forget. But so unfortunately I don't have the notes, but I have my book and I have some of the sheets that they give us.
Uh-huh.
And so I told them about how they're gonna have to know their polyatomics, which
Oh, the ones that have two atoms together, like
yeah,
NaCO3 and all those kind of
yeah.
things.
Hmm. Yeah, so they're gonna have to know those by heart, and then they're probably gonna get quizzed on that like the first week, I would think, because it's summer.
Uh-huh.
And in the normal class, we got quizzed on it like the third week. So
Okay.
yeah, so I think that's like probably the first thing they should prepare for, and then also yeah, they build off of those to do the word problems.
I see.
And then later down the line they'll know like when a metal reacts with acid that it will form a salt with water. So there's different like
Okay.
chemical reactions that they'll also have to know down the line as well.
Well, I'll have to cram more uh from the um chemistry videos then. So
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
see
I
that.
wish I could like share my book with you somehow.
No, I mean I'm sure I have another like there's probably another um I'm sure there's probably another set of lecture notes somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure
Mhm.
I could probably get a hold of someone and see if I can
But
get them.
I mean, I'm sure I have. I because I need to review like the early stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I need to review the early stuff too because I've done it, and I only did it in high school. I didn't do it here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a little more I think they make it a little more intense at Cerritos College because the chemistry department, like, they're really well known, or I think they're like one of the top 12, number 12 in California.
wow.
So they're very, um, yeah,
Yeah,
known in
no,
that.
I know. Then our math department too is known for being somewhat no, but I'm sure I can find material on it. It's not.
Yeah,
And I've done some of the basic material before, but it's been a while. So if I read it, I can probably get most of it. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
don't have to get it all because that's not my field, but I have to get enough of it to, you
yeah.
know. But I did send in the fundamentals of chemistry from Missouri State, the playlist, and I sent it to you.
Yeah, I got that.
In case you wanted to. And this, I think, I'm not sure what their course fundamentals are, but it's probably analogous to our 100, not our 110, but they do have another playlist after this. So I'm not sure how in depth this goes, but it does cover a lot of material.
Okay.
So I figured because it starts with like the basics, like I said, like sodium is Na, not S, and you know
Yeah,
P is phosphorus, not potassium. You know, and kind of like that.
yeah,
So it's I don't know exactly what everything covers, but the first he talks about there's molecular molarity in here. There's weight and mass and all kinds of. It doesn't have the topics, but the first playlist is 54 lectures long.
oh wow.
I mean, I think it's going to cover quite a bit of material, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And you can always look it up in a book or whatever, but I want to go through it just to see what it covers. But it's really explanatory. That's why I chose it.
Hmm.
Chemical fundamentals and applications recommended for students needing only one semester of general chemistry. But this is like the basic intro, so I figured it would be a good place to start because I don't think either one of them had it before ever.
Right.
So I figured even if it doesn't cover everything in the class, especially early on, it'll touch a lot of the stuff that they're learning and looking at, you know?
Yeah, because they're gonna need yeah, because I took 100 at Long Beach City College, so I had like that basic. So
The,
I think that really helped because I already knew like how to set up the dimensional analysis and all that too.
well, yeah, but setting up the dimensional analysis is not all that hard.
Yeah, I think
I knew about conversions, but I learned about dimensional analysis in physics, and that was the most useful thing that I learned from my physics class.
yeah,
I'm like, this is life changing. I can treat the units like fractions. Like, wow.
yeah,
And I started doing all of my math conversions like that. I'm like, where has this been all my life? Because up until then, I was, setting it up with the equations, and I could do that too. But I'm like, this is revolutionary. Epiphany happened. You know what I mean? It was like, wow. So now I teach it both ways. But so I feel you there.
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
you.
I think yeah, it's just understanding like what you're saying, the elements, like where they are on the periodic table, knowing like metals versus non-metals, all
And
of
then they have a whole lecture on significant figures, which is going to help them.
that. Yes.
There's a whole lecture on when figures are significant, when they aren't, and how you do that. So I'll have to watch more of it and learn more.
Yeah.
Now that I know I have to know more going in. Thanks for
Yeah.
the,
Not
thanks
to,
for the tip, Sam. I have 3 weeks.
you're welcome.
Let me start cramming now. 2 hours a day. I should be able to finish 54 videos in 3 weeks.
There you go.
And then I could start with the second group and be where I'm supposed to be. No, I'm sure there's some overlap.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some overlap because they're both fundamental. You know what I mean? They're not like, but I think if it was like 111 or 112, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
You know. But thanks for the tip. I better let you go.
Okay.
But we'll talk tomorrow. I did send you your documents. So you have the Desmos picture with the equations, and then you have the Google Doc from
Oh, okay. I see it.
Circle. Okay?
Okay.
And then I'll link to the video in the morning. Okay?
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Because it's not even ready on Zoom yet. I haven't gotten the email that the cloud recording on Zoom is ready. So,
Okay.
um, but I'll send it in the morning early, and then we'll talk about it. Okay?
Okay.
Alrighty.
All
Thanks,
right.
Sam.
Thank
Talk
you
to you
so much.
later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.